One of the top high school basketball programs in South Central Michigan is Hillsdale High School. Brad Felix has turned this into a team that is at the top of the league every single year. They have been tremendously successful, and yet he still roots for the sad sack Minnesota Vikings. I wore this shirt in your honor tonight.
I'm surprised. You know, usually I try to dress up myself when I come to the show, and I thought this year I'll dress down, and here you are all spiffed up and purple.
I got my Vikings gear on. That's
yeah,
right.
It looks good. It looks good.
You guys are still hanging around a little bit. The Vikings are not as bad as we thought.
You know, we're a 4th and 20 against Buffalo, and we'd be 5-4 right now. But I like the direction the Vikes are going. You know, if we're going to talk a little bit of Vikes here, I like the new coach. Yeah. I think Zimmer's is bringing some toughness to the team. Their defense is 1,000 folds better than it was last year already. Offensively, they've just suffered some horrendous injuries, and then obviously the Adrian Peterson scandal. And but you know, I like Teddy Bridgewater, and I think they're doing a lot with what they have right now.
Future is good with Bridgewater and the defense, and I think a lot of people have been impressed with Mike Zimmer. There were 2 coordinators that left Cincinnati. Gruden went to Washington and Zimmer went to Minnesota, and I think you ended up with the right one.
Yeah, you know, and they faced off, what was it, 2 weeks ago now, and I thought that was kind of interesting, is they probably faced off in practice a lot in Cincy, and that was a good game. You know, RG3 came back that day, and, you know, the Vikes played well in the second half.
Let's talk a little Hornet football because you're at all the games. Obviously, you help out in the press box. You're watching your boys play for Mark, and then he watches them play for you. It's your turn to take them right now. You know, what they did again, making the playoffs for the 14th straight time. I'm losing track of the number. Making it all the way to Jackson, Lim, and Christie. It was exciting, and they had another great year, didn't they?
Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that because Coach Lems came up to me today and he tagged me and he says, "All right, you're it." And, you know, that is sort of how it goes. Yeah. You know, we're really good friends, you know, on and off the field, obviously. We've done a lot together, and, you know, I think we try to work together as best we can with these kids. And, you know, I hold my breath every Friday, you know, and hope that nobody gets severely injured. You know, not just because of basketball, but in general. But obviously I'm keeping a little bit more of an eye on my players, and you know, what Coach Lem and his whole staff really, you know, Kirby and Putnam and all those guys, Coach Kiesel, they do a great job here. And that's why I like my basketball players to play football, to be honest with you. I like what they do. Our guys come in with the right mindset that, you know, we're here to win. They're used to watching film. The standards are held high, and we try to keep it going in the winter.
That is so great that you bring that up, because even in the spring they've had a lot of success with baseball and track. But you 2 programs, the 2 big profile programs at Hillsdale High School, basketball and football, work together as well as any 2 programs that we see at any school around. The continuity, you guys have been there forever. You work so well together, and I like how you put it. The standard is high for both. And so there's no thought that, well, you know, I don't really have to work so hard for one as I do the other. The standard's high all the time. And the way you tie it in with a Hornet power, it's a great time to be a Hornet. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. You know, Coach Kirby does a great job down in the gym with the weights, like you said. And, you know, first hour, those guys get after it every day. And, you know, I just think really it's a, you know, I'm not trying to brag, but I think it's really a good standard of our school system in general. You know, even in the classrooms, you know, we have pretty high standards in the classroom. We make our guys, you know, work hard and strive for good grades. You know, my basketball team has been academic all state 2 straight years. So, you know, it's even one of our goals. And, you know, we try to get good grades, and we know that the future is really not basketball, you know, so.
Now, Lem had Martin on a punt protect, and Martin got steamrolled. And when I was watching the play, I just figured that he got his bell rung, but then I saw the guys working on his shoulder a little bit, and he's going to be limited early on in the year, it sounds like.
You know, well, I told Lem today, I said, it seems like he's got to take out a main guy every year. Last year was Patrick, and this year's Martin. You know, if he teach Martin how to block, we wouldn't have had this problem. You know, I'm going to guess he probably did teach him how to block correctly, and Martin probably screwed that up. But, yeah, we got some bad news today on Martin. You know, he's got a little rotator cuff issue, and, you know, hopefully he'll rehab that. And, you know, it's this way every year, to be honest. It's not just because of football. I think the conditioning we do early, we'll get some guys that, you know, just get sore. They pull a hamstring, or most of my injuries usually are early. Yeah. You'd rather have none, but if you're going to have them, you'd rather have them now. And Martin should be back by December, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring it up because you didn't have Pat the first couple of games last year, and
right.
He came back maybe a little bit sooner than a lot of people expected, and by the second half of the year he was 100%. The good thing for MP is this isn't a leg.
Right.
This is, once he gets that back, he should be good to go and no problem.
Yeah, Patrick probably did come back a little too early last year, but the Adrian Madison game is –
yeah,
it's kind of a big non-leaguer for us. These
Absolutely.
guys know a lot of their players, and it's sort of a non-league rivalry, if you can call it such a thing. And I think Pat really wanted to get into that game, and he came in limited minutes and led us in scoring last year in that game. So he made a big impact for us. And Martin, the big thing I'm worried about with him is his right shoulder.
Yeah.
So that's your shooting arm, and shooting is a taxing thing on that shoulder blade area. So I'm gonna say I'm a little concerned about it. I hope it's going to be okay.
Yep, for sure. Brad Felix is the head coach of the Hillsdale Hornet basketball team. The end of last year is a game we've talked about and dissected a million times. We left off Hornet basketball with Joe Phillips' shot careening off the rim that would have potentially given the Hornets the victory and sent your team to the Breslin Center. I know getting to the Breslin Center is a burning passion for you, something that you've dreamed of doing, and to have it so close and it's such a competitive game. I know you've thought about that game a million times.
I think about it every day. And I'm not exaggerating. I think it is in my mind every day. I just don't understand how Joe missed that shot. It's probably the most devastating loss of my coaching career. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I'm just truthful.
Yeah.
I just felt like we really outplayed. I don't know if we would play them 10 times if we would have beaten them, 5. But on that night, I felt we were the better team. Yep. I felt we were more prepared than they were. I think they took us for granted a little bit. And we just simply missed too many shots. And we made one three-pointer, which was uncharacteristic for us. We made one three-pointer against Hanover, but I would give Hanover credit for that. They're just a great defensive team, and they took that away. Muskegon didn't really take away the three on us. We just flat out missed shots, and we missed shots underneath. We missed layups. And I just remember telling my coaching staff throughout the first half, I said, we're missing too many shots against a good team. And in the Heights defense, every mistake we made defensively, they exposed. When we lost one of those shooters, they hit a three, and then they went on that little 24-second run there and blitzed us, and we still had a chance. And the biggest play of the game was probably when Martin fouled out. I really felt that call was against their best player, number 3, and it goes against us. And now he's on the bench instead of their stud.
Huge swing. Yep.
A huge call. And it is what it is. But yeah, that's a killer.
To come out of the locker room, we've talked about this off the air, but I haven't talked to you on the air since then. To come out of that locker room and to see all of your fans waiting for you guys and everybody there to give you a round of applause and a standing ovation. I know it was an emotional time for you guys, and you've told me off the air you really appreciated the support.
Well, the locker room itself, the most difficult locker room I think I was ever in my career was Tyler Lacer's senior year. Those guys had done so much, and it was our first real successful group of guys. That was easily rivaled last year by our locker room at the end of that game. I remember walking back into that hallway, and they were in the locker room, and I stood outside the locker room. I just had my hands on my knees, kind of just staring at the floor, trying to think of what I was going to say. And it's a difficult time, unless you're right in there and you've been involved in that before. It's something that, it stays in the locker room, obviously, with us. But to come back out of there then, I didn't really want to come out. I'm kind of that way anyway. I sneak out of most games as much as I can. I know a lot of people like what we do, and they want to congratulate you. But sometimes I'm embarrassed by, the accolades at times. I'd rather have the kids get the credit and let them mingle with the crowd. But I didn't want to come out, but I knew WCSR was waiting. And yeah, to get back to your original question, it was probably the most heartfelt moment I've had in my coaching career from fans. Again, as a coach, you hear more of the negative than any of the positive. And for the entire, we were probably in that locker room 15, 20 minutes. For them to still all be there, and not only the standing ovation, but the length of it, I'll remember it forever.
Yep, my kids were crying, my wife was crying, everybody was crying, it's a tribute to your kids because people really love those kids, and they're good guys. And when you got to know them and you kind of get swept up into it, why wouldn't you? Obviously, it was a great high school basketball game, but I think just the idea of going to the Breslin Center and what that would have meant, especially for Brandon and for Wilcox at that point, who were seniors, it was going to be really special for everybody. Let's talk about Wilcox and Brandon. Obviously, they're gone. Your point guard and your best three-point shooter. Obviously, you're not going to totally replace those guys. What are you going to have to do to pick up the slack and change what you do offensively and defensively?
It's going to be a challenge. It's my number one concern coming into the season. Andrew did way more than anybody can imagine, really. He really controlled the show for us out there. Wasn't the flashy kind of point guard that you see, but really did a fantastic job of understanding what we want to do and how we want to do it. Brandon just brings that automatic scoring punch, from anywhere on the floor, layups to 15-footers to three, our best three-point shooter. And then something people don't really think about, those also were our two ice the game guys at the end. So we wanted the ball with Andrew or Brandon most of the time in the fourth quarter when they were thinking about fouling us because we felt they'd go to the line and make free throws for us. So, huge concern. I don't think we have guys that are going to replace those two. We still have some good shooters, but they aren't going to be able to create their jump shot like Brandon did. And I think we're going to be more of a point guard by committee kind of situation. It's a concern, without a doubt. And on the defensive side of the floor as well, Andrew was one of our toughest defenders, not the quickest kid, but just strong physically. And he had one of the top two guys, every night too. So we're going to have to replace that, and it's going to be a challenge for us.
If the Conrads are listening, I didn't forget about Trey because I know that Trey emerged as a key starter for you as well. And he wasn't maybe in the headlines all the time, but he's another guy that was impactful on your team as well that graduated.
Right. Well, I haven't forgotten about Trey either. Yeah. Again, another guy that definitely flies under the radar and was an unsung hero last year for us. Again, one of our best defenders. Him and Andrew had the top priorities defensively, and Trey was our runner. He was the one that got out and put pressure on defenses to get back a little bit, and if you didn't get back, he hurt you with it. So we'll miss all three of those guys, but it is what it is. It's just the way it goes, college to high school. I mean, you got to replace them, and you got to find new ways to win, and our expectations won't be any different than they were last year.
Nope, they're still high. We're talking to Brad Felix, the head coach of Hillsdale High School. We'll take a break in a minute, Bob, and come back. Pat's here, and we'll talk to Ben Baxter and Martin. But before we send it back, let's talk about some guys that maybe Hornet fans didn't hear a lot about last year, maybe from the JV team or maybe who didn't get a ton of playing time, that are going to step up and have a bigger impact or a bigger role this year.
Well, that's a great question.
Practice hasn't started yet, right?
It is preseason, and I guess we're gonna find out.
Right.
But Tyler Lash, I think, would be one. He wasn't on the JV last year, but sort of. I don't know. These guys will laugh, but he's kind of our Mr. Automatic three-point shooter. If you need a three, kind of put him in. But not the greatest on the defensive end of the floor for us, so we try to find a balance there with Tyler. Joe Phillip. Again, not a guy in the headlines so much, but Joe would be a guy that I think he's the one guy that can fill Trey's shoes a little bit and be that runner for us, play a little bit of guard, and do the best he can on defense against their best player. From the JVs, I really don't know how it's going to be right now. I really thought Matt Rogers had a good summer, surprisingly. We had a little heart-to-heart early in the summer about the way he was playing, which I wasn't happy with. And, when Matt puts his mind to it, I think he can be a pretty good player. Bryce Bifus, I think, can give us good minutes. He plays hard. He's competitive. But, busted up his wrist a little bit, so he's in a cast right now. So, I don't know until practice starts really how all these guys are really going to fit in. So we'll see.
These guys hate the early part of the basketball season. I don't know if you knew that.
I don't like it either.
They've told me that. The conditioning and the early part of it is so much hard work, and you put so much pressure on these guys mentally. Your practices are no joke. I mean, you put them into adversity. You make them work really, really hard. There's no screwing around. How does that, obviously, you've had so much success. How does the early part of practice pay off down the road?
Well, we throw a lot at them early. I mean, Mart and I were talking about this tonight, actually. It's such a difficult program to come into and play when you're brand new, like for a transfer or a sophomore coming up to the varsity. I counted the other day on our offensive play card. We have 55 plays on that card, out of bounds plays and whatnot. And that's just offense. And our defense is somewhat complicated as well. We have a whole numbering system we do. So, the one thing I think is important to be in shape is, one, we play hard, but my feeling is as soon as you start getting tired, the first thing to go is your mind.
Yep.
You start thinking how tired you are rather than how to execute plays. So, that's a big deal. And the beginning of the season isn't any fun. It's not any fun for me either. I don't like sitting there and standing there. I'd rather have a ball. I'd rather be coaching the X's and O's. I don't enjoy watching these guys run. I know it's a necessity. I've been through it as a player. I know what it takes to win, and I know you have to be in shape. But, I'm not sadistic. I don't sit there. I don't love watching these guys run and, they're, throwing up in the garbage cans or whatever. It's not a fun time of the year for anybody, really. But, we get through it, and that's our expectation here. And, the guys that have been through it, they understand it. And, they do the best they can to keep things upbeat in that gym this week, and we do our best, and we roll from there.
And the results speak for themselves. Playoff berth after playoff run that has been so successful for the Hornets. We'll be back with more with Brad Felix. We'll also talk to a couple of the players right after a break. You're listening to the Timeout Show on WCSR. Hillsdale High School basketball tonight on the Timeout Show. We are live on a Wing Wednesday at the Broad Street Downtown Market. Brad Felix is my guest. Patrick Drews obviously has emerged as one of the marquee guys for the Hornets. He was a key component of the team that went all the way through the state tournament last year. What do you expect? What do you think you're going to get from Pat Drews this year?
Well, first thing, got to compliment him on his hair. Doesn't that look good?
He does look good.
Yeah. I will say, we were talking about past teams and whatnot, and I really enjoyed every team I've really had has been great. But last year, I might have to say might have been my favorite team, just because the way these guys handle themselves off the floor as well as on. And we're just such good guys to be around, and I just enjoyed practices and, and go to speak, with him. I just asked him, I said, hey, man, if you could just trim up your hair just a little bit, man. And, I've had a lot of guys fight me on that kind of stuff, and came up to me yesterday. He's like, I'm not real happy about it, Coach, but here you go. And that's just the kind of guys I have right now that I appreciate that little stuff. But the expectations are high for Patrick. I feel like he's our number one weapon coming into the season, and I'm sure everybody in the league is thinking the same thing. But he's just, I thought last year in the playoff run between him and Andrew, he was an animal out there, and probably could have dunked one there at Jonesville. I just have this vision against Maple Valley, him coming through the lane and tipping this one in. I thought, man, I think he might have thrown that down. And great player. He can shoot the three a little bit, inside, outside, great rebounder, competitive. And, he was back tonight. We gave the football guys a little bit of time off, and so he came back tonight, and he's done a little running, so he's ready to roll.
Patrick Drews joining us here on the Timeout Show. Patrick, it's got to feel good to start the basketball season healthy. Last year you were kind of held back for a while with a leg injury. You're 100% now, and that's got to be nice.
Yeah, it is. Last year, coming back from that knee injury, it's tough. Everyone else is already conditioned, and you have to practice and then stay an hour afterwards just to get your conditioning so you're ready to go. It's nice to be healthy this year. I'm excited.
Senior leadership, obviously last year you had it with Andrew, who I thought was, just as a fan and a guy that followed your team, a sensational leader. Obviously Brandon Beischer, the same kind of a thing. Now you're the senior. what have you learned from Brandon and Andrew about that, and how do you expect to lead this team this year?
Well, those two were phenomenal leaders. I mean, everyone saw it on and off the court. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that people don't see, and they're just such great guys to be around, and you really learn a lot from them. And so this year going into it, we have another great group of guys, and it's the little things I think that Brandon and Andrew did, and there's different way to handle things in different times, and people react different ways to how you say it and what you do. So a lot of it, especially with this year, is you have to lead by your actions, and that's kind of something that they've taught me and something that I'll try to carry over with this year's team.
Talk is cheap. You know, are you showing up on time? Are you taking things seriously at practice? And I know these guys are going to do that. You had such an incredible run last year. I know that it was disappointing to lose it, but it's also got to whet your appetite to make another run this year. You still have talented players. Yes, you graduated some good guys, but the guys you have coming back are pretty darn good.
Yeah, last year was a great run. It's awesome every year that you can do that, and I've been lucky to make a little run each year, and with this year, we did lose a few key guys, but you also gain that experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, that experience is so hard to come by, and very few guys get that experience. And I mean, 10 players on our team this year were brought up and have seen that and experienced it in the postseason game. So I'm excited. I mean, we lost a few players, but we have some great players coming back.
Your game, obviously everybody thinks of you as an inside guy, but you can step out and hit a shot outside if you have to too, can't you?
Yeah, I try. Coach he puts me out there when we need to, and a lot of the times I'll get out there just to draw a guy out.
Right.
And we can kind of open up the lane a little bit, and if need be, I can shoot the ball. So it's nice to have, especially with Martin too. You know, he's a big guy, and he shoots real well. I think he may shoot a little bit better than me now, but it's a great thing to have playing out there with the strategy.
Last thing, Pat, and I'll let you go. How tough is the transition? You guys just finished a playoff run in football. I know you put your whole heart and soul into that. Disappointing loss against Lumen Christi, although I thought you guys played really well, especially in the first half. But you lose that game. 3 days later, you know, you got to totally shift and focus on basketball. How tough is that transition to make that switch and get on to basketball time?
I mean, going into the game on Lumen, obviously a tough loss. Every last game is hard, and but we knew coming into it that as soon as it was done, basketball starts. Yeah. And it's just kind of one of those things where you can't think about it too much. You just have to do it, and you just kind of flip the switch and you go on to the next chapter and you get ready for the new season. So
congratulations, man, on a great football season. You guys represented our town really well, and look forward to basketball. Thanks, brother. Swaggy B, come on over here, Swaggy B. If you don't know who Swaggy B is, it's Ben Baxter, who transferred from Will Carleton Academy. You entered into the mix about halfway through the year last year, and you know, the jump from Will Carleton and the teams that they play to Hillsdale High School and the teams they have to play, how tough was that transition for you as you came into it last year?
It wasn't really much different, like going into practice, like games and stuff, but practice is what was really tough because, like, Will Carleton, we had a few plays, but when we come here, I was kind of scared of the playbook, honestly. Like, I didn't know what to think and where to start. I didn't really understand how to, like, I didn't have the playbook down until probably end of December, and even after that, I was still messing up a little bit.
What have you worked on since the Muskegon game last year? You've had the off season to work on your game. What have you focused on?
Well, I've worked with Tyler Lacer over the summer on, like, footwork down low on the post and just scoring. Because, I mean, last year I was hesitant in shooting, but now I feel like I have confidence to shoot whenever I need to.
Do the Patrick Drews and the Martin Petersons of the world, do they accept you right away and make you feel at home, or did you have to kind of earn that respect?
I mean, coming from a small school like Will Carleton, going into Hillsdale, I was the new fish in the sea, so I had to earn that respect to be like a part of that team.
But now that you've done that a little bit, you're starting to feel your way a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean, now, like, I'm friends with everyone on the team. We hang out all the time, so we get along pretty well.
The over and under on in-game dunks for you is 3. Yep. I put the number on our trip to the Lions game. Are you standing? You're taking the over on that?
I'm taking do I have like the less than, or, I mean, more than or equal to? Like, is this like an inequality thing?
6 to 7 in-game dunks for Ben Baxter this year.
Okay.
That's my prediction. Martin Peterson, Coach Felix is giving me a dirty look. Only when he's wide open and you have the game in hand can he try to dunk it, maybe. Something like that. Martin, your shoulder got jacked up a little bit against Lumen. How long do you think you're going to be unable to do what you do?
I know we'll take a week or two just to make sure it's all right, but I should be back a week or two before our first game, so I'm not too worried about it.
Do you dispute Coach Felix's assessment of your blocking skills?
No. He could probably have taught me. I guess if he wanted to, but no. Yeah, I guess I didn't block him properly, but I guess that's my own fault. So.
Yeah, you go from quarterback to on this basketball team, and I was talking to Coach Felix in the offseason, and you've said that maybe there could be situations where you'll be bringing the ball up, even though you're a big guy. You have that kind of versatility, don't you?
Yeah, I've been trying to work on it a lot. When Coach Felix approached me in the spring about, maybe having the opportunity to bring the ball up a little bit, sure. So I worked on that a lot over the summer and whatnot. But, I think football definitely helps a lot with that, with the quarterback position and being able to see the field, being able to communicate with guys really well. Just some of those things that I think I could transform into the basketball court. So
all year last year, we would talk every Wednesday night about the basketball season. You just kept telling me how much fun it was, and I think people think about how hard you guys have to work and wonder how can that be fun. It's so much hard work, so much memorization, so much physicality. You had a blast, and once you get into it and kind of get going a little bit and start to feel comfortable, it is a lot of fun to win, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a blast. These first couple weeks are rough, but you just kind of, you're right back into it, and, you're just excited about basketball. Games are just awesome. Practices get very intense. We go very hard. We're competitive, 5-on-5, trying to get better every single day. So, that's what makes it fun, and especially with the camaraderie of these guys, it's just a blast to be around all these great guys all the time, and it's just so much fun.
Coach Felix, come on up here. I want to thank you one more time for joining us. I know this is a busy time of the year for you, and you always make time for our program. These are great kids. Obviously, you've already stated that, but it's got to be fun to work with them every night. And you're going to put a competitive team. It's going to be a different team, but it'll be a competitive team one more time, won't it?
We'll be competitive. I'm looking forward to the challenge a little bit, and it's funny. Everybody kind of anticipates. We're 24-2 last year, and I was looking at my scouting report. We're already preparing for Madison, or I am at least. I've cut some film, and I was looking at our scouting report last year, and the quote I put on the board last year was, "Let's start a winning streak." Well, I didn't have any intentions of it being 24 in a row, but I thought that was funny when I looked at that. And this will be a different season, a different team. And I was talking to you when we were at commercial that the league is going to be extremely good, and that adds to the difficulty of winning games. I think there's 4 very good teams in our league, with a 5th team that I think is going to beat some people that they're probably not supposed to beat. So, I think, we'll figure it out. I've got guys that, are versatile, and we'll be big. We're going to have some good size, and, I think we'll probably have a few dunks this year, which will be fun for the people in the stands to watch. But this is one of the few teams I'll probably let them dunk a little bit. It's actually a high percentage shot for some of these guys right now. So we'll have fun.
Yep, appreciate your time, Coach. Appreciate you bringing your guys down. Have a great season, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate the show. I like coming on. I've always said it'd be great to have a Saturday morning coaches show, but only when we're winning, not when we're losing.
That would be a lot of fun.
That'd be fun. I thought about that before. It's a great venue, though, man. Thanks for having us on.